We have all had an absolute blast this summer, but you know, school is coming. We're going to have more scheduling. We're going to have everything's going to get a little bit more, you know,
chaotic.
And that's why we have this woman here to tell us about words like chaotic. It's clinical psychologist Dr. Elaine Ducharme. It's a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you.
Now, I feel like back to school impacts parents just as much, if not more, than kids, because they're the ones schlepping them around and kind of helping them out when they come home from their rough transitions.
Right. So the first thing we have to realize is that the kids have not been in routines all summer. So now suddenly they're having to get up early. And I think the thing for parents to remember that's most important is just think routine, routine, routine. Kids do better with routine. No surprises, and let the kids start knowing, you know, what it is that you expect of them, you know, in the mornings.
And you don't even have to leave it a mystery. You can actually write it down. You think making a list, a daily routine chart's the way to go. Yeah,
you know, there are a couple of different ways you can do it. You can actually make just a routine list that the kids can, you know, 1, 2, 3. You can actually, for older kids, have for each day the different things they need to do. So because on, say, Monday they might need to put their instrument in their backpack, and Tuesday their gym clothes, so that you might have a different to-do list for each day. And for the younger ones, one of the cool things to do is to take, you know, sort of a mug or some sort of a jar, and take those wooden paint sticks, let them paint them pretty colors or something, and put the name of each chore they have to do, like brush teeth, you know, pack backpack, eat breakfast, and let them, as they do those things, they're just responsible. As soon as it's done, they get to put the stick on the table, and it's done, and you don't have to keep nagging them about, you know, all you have to do is look at the jar, and they know they have to take everything out of the jar when it's done. And it lets them feel independent, and they have kind of some fun with it.
And when you succeed in structure, I think that gives you so much self-confidence going forward too.
Oh yeah.
And moreover, a great thing about that list is if you know what you have to do, and nothing's left to the imagination, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's something to be said about writing something down and completing it.
Yeah, and then the kid can't say to you, oh, I forgot, I didn't remember I was supposed to, you know, brush my teeth.
Exactly.
Well, it's right there, and if it's on the stick, you need to take it out and put it on the table.
Let's talk about electronics, because more and more that's exactly. I think parents just did a collective eye roll at home, because come on, it's everywhere. You can't stop it.
No, you can't stop it. And so a lot of parents say no electronics, particularly the iPad kind of thing, during the week. If you must, you have to have a rule that none of those electronics go on until all of those chores are done in the morning, and they may have 5 or 10 minutes before school to be able to do it. And I really like parents to limit the use of the electronics to an hour to an hour and a half a day. And you can actually go into parental controls and turn off all the functions except reading, so that the kid, you know, so you have it set on a timer, and if they use up their hour, an hour and a half, whatever you decide, it just goes off, and they can read on it, but they can't play the games.
That's not bad. I think a lot of adults need something like that
too. A lot
of
adults need this, yeah.
Because a lot of people are on the social media.
You start playing you know, solitaire, and an hour later you're still playing solitaire. Right?
Exactly. You can never win.
No,
I can never win at cribbage. It's killing me.
Yeah.
But let's move past it. For parents, because it's just important that parents have their act together, because not only do they have to get the kids ready and out the door, then they have to recalibrate, get themselves ready to go to work.
Exactly, and that becomes a real moment of tension when mom's saying, I got to get out the door, and the kid is saying, no, but now I haven't done this. So really think about what can you do the night before.
Exactly.
And a lot of things like, you know, making, on the weekends when you're cooking, you can make waffles and pancakes and muffins and have those in the freezer for breakfast. You can take them out in 30 seconds, you know, you have that ready for them.
You could do the same thing for lunch too.
Absolutely, and you know, there are a lot of things that can be made ahead of time. There's one great recipe of taking a sandwich and flattening the bread out, cut off the crust, peanut butter and jelly, roll it up, and slice it, and you have peanut butter and jelly sushi. And kids will eat those little teeny pieces.
Cool.
You can put other things in there too, but it's a really fun way for picky eaters if they're allowed to have peanut butter in the school these days.
That's true. I'm in. And then the last thing that you can do, and that you can do with your kids in a way, you can make fun, have some fun with it. You, parents and kids, can pick out their outfits the night before.
Yeah, always try and do that the night before. You know, kids want to have a say in what they're wearing, and so a lot of times you have to give them some choices. But if you've got it picked out the night before, they can sort of then just fall into their clothes. Otherwise, you have all kinds of things. I don't want to wear this, and then you get into an argument. It makes life very difficult.
I feel like a little bit of structure can make life a whole lot easier. So then you can add the fun and the chaos into it, but as long as you have the structure and you've made your clothes and your backpacks the night before and you're ready to go.
Yeah, it makes the morning go much more smoothly. Everybody's happier. You send your kids out the door with a hug and a kiss, and everybody just feels calmer.
Everybody can take that collective breath before they go into school and work.
Exactly.
And have a whole myriad of adventures there. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
But later we're going to talk about college kids too, because that might be even a bigger transition for them. So we're going to help kids and parents with that. Thank you so
Great.
much.
You're welcome.
Stick around. We need
okay.
you. That's pretty good music. We're back with clinical psychologist Dr. Elaine Ducharme. Now we're talking about tips for parents with kids going off to school. And you were just talking, parents have this antiquated view of kids when they go off to college, that they're little adults. They're not.
No, they're not. They're really not grown-ups. Their frontal lobes really don't develop until they're in their early to mid-20s. And for boys, especially kids with ADD, it's even a few years later.
Yeah.
So, and the frontal lobes are responsible for judgment and reasoning. So, yeah, those are really kind of important things
and
to
that's
have.
Why, yeah, and that's why we read all those stories on the news that college kids just don't have their act together.
No, you know, the drinking and those kinds of things, it's because they may know cognitively, they know what to do, but they don't necessarily actually do it because their judgment goes off.
And that often is just a fault of the fact that it's science. They haven't developed fully.
Right, exactly.
So, but also, and parents need to be attuned to this because kids are really excited. You know, you have all those stereotypes that you know and you're pumped about college for. But they're nervous too. They're more nervous than you think they are.
They really are. I see kids a lot in my office who will say to me, you know, I'm really kind of scared. I don't want to tell my parents. You know, but I'm nervous about this whole thing. There's so many things I don't, you know, I'm not sure. It's the unknown, the unexpected. So take some time and acknowledge that with your kids, because I think that idea that they've just got it together, they say they want to, you know, get out of the house and they're acting kind of very brave, but take some time and talk to them.
And we talked about this last week too. As adults, we know a lot of the answers to the questions that the kids are nervous about, but we need to lead them to the answers and not hit them over the head with the answer.
Right, yeah. I mean, some things we need to talk to them about. I mean, I think there's some very specific things we need to talk to them about in terms of like grades, what our expectations are. When kids are going to college, there's this thing that I have a lot of issue with. The schools cannot release grades to their parents, you know, without the kid's permission. It has to be a written permission, which, frankly, I have a feeling if it's my kid and I'm paying for their college tuition, I need to know their grades. So, no child of mine would ever not sign that release, but you have to make sure your kid has done that when they go off to college.
So that's part of the conversation, you know, especially if you're paying too. You sit the kid down and you say, okay, you're going to be able to sign this form. You should probably let me see your grades if you want us to keep helping you out.
Exactly.
Also, things like, which is sad to think of, laundry.
Yeah.
You go and, you know, parents have been doing their kids' laundry for so long, they forget how to do it. They don't know
some
how.
of them have never done it. I've had kids say to me, tell me, well, how do I turn on a washing machine?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, your assignment is to go home and stand with mom or dad and have them help you turn on the washing machine.
Yep.
Or cook. Many of them, you know, some of the college dorms have facilities for them to cook. They may never have done anything besides boil water. So giving them a few skills like that are really kinds of helpful things for them.
You know what would be fun? A day with mom and dad going to the grocery store and learning a little, like a microwave tutorial. That would go a real long way.
Yeah, I mean, kids don't really get a lot of things. They need to also know specifically, what are they expected to do in college? Are they expected to pay for their books? Are they expected to pay for, you know, their pizza? How much money are they going to be allowed to have? Are they expected to have a part-time job? If they're being given a Visa card, what are the limits? How to write a check. A lot of kids have never written a check.
Great point.
You know?
And a lot of this stuff, too, sometimes parents think, oh, well, they'll just learn it in college. Colleges don't teach certain common sense things.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you'd wish they'd give a laundry tutorial, but they don't. So it's so important that we have conversations with our kids about this. But also, most importantly, drinking.
Yeah.
It's a huge issue on college campuses right now, drinking and drugs. How do we discuss it with our kids?
A lot of parents will say to me, well, they're underage, I just tell them don't drink. And I find that to be sort of unrealistic and not very helpful.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm going to say to kids, you know, I know you shouldn't drink, I know you're not supposed to drink, you're underage, but the reality is I'm pretty sure you probably are going to do some experimenting in drinking. And so then I want to have a conversation about avoid mixed drinks. Things with a lot of the sugar kinds of things in them, because you tend to get drunk around those things. They don't taste like alcohol, so it feels like you're drinking punch, and you just drink glass after glass until you're really sick. Don't leave that glass. If you have a drink, make sure you've seen who mixed it and who poured it, and then don't go to the bathroom and leave it there and come back. If you go to the bathroom, take your glass with you or throw it out and start over again. Those kinds of basic things. And the safety. Don't get into a car if somebody you're with has been drinking, and certainly don't you drive while you're drinking.
Absolutely not.
So those are really basic, and you can be really clear about your expectations of drugs.
It would even be one of those things. I imagine. I'm thinking if my parents were to have that conversation with me, if they were to say, we know something like this is going to happen, so that dalliance will allow you, but this, and this, you need to be aware of. You need to be respectful. You need to drink appropriately. So important. Right. Lastly, if your kid has been in therapy and then they're going away to school, you might want to make sure that there are outlets for them to continue doing that.
I often will, if I'm seeing kids in therapy, I will either make sure they know where the college counseling center is, have their parents do that, or see if they want a referral for someone off campus. Most of our psychologists in private practice, often we have a network of people throughout the country, and I can just write a note to the listserv and say, I've got a kid going to say URI. I'm looking for a therapist off campus. These are the kinds of things I need, and I very quickly get some referrals, and then we can set up an appointment even for right when they first get there, just so they can meet them.
Exactly.
Or they can have that name in their back pocket so that they know they're going to be able to continue with help if they need it.
And lastly, it's the 21st century, kids. There's no excuse. So many people have cell phones. There's the technology and the apps where you can get each other's faces. That one and more. So there's no excuse, kids. Call your mother.
Right, and and I do think I want to emphasize for parents, use FaceTime or Skype, because seeing your kid and understanding what they actually look like can give you a clue as to how they're actually doing, rather than texting, which kids do a lot, and there's no way to know how they're doing emotionally.
And even when you're on the phone, I hope the parents are watching, when you're on the phone with mom and dad, you can be doing so many different things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What you say and what you do are two very different things. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Call your parents, kids. It's a pleasure having you here.